Uh, yeah, it's lovely to have you on video if you'd like, but if you don't want to be recorded, please stay off video. And we'll have time for questions at the end. But if you want to ask questions in the chat as you go along, feel free to do so. So the agenda today, we'll do a quick introduction from me, and then we'll hear from all of our speakers in turn, and we'll do questions for them at the end rather than at the end of their individual sessions, and then we'll close off the session, hopefully in time for 11 a.m. We've got a whole load of events going on throughout the month. Obviously, top tips today for course creation. Next week, we'll be talking about advocating for carbon literacy. It's a bumper 1.5 hour event. And we're rather than doing speakers in turn, we have a whole narrative arc of advocacy. And we'll be jumping back and forth on what advocacy looks like and what that conversation is like. And then we're doing how to market carbon literacy training the week after with Lucia, our head of marketing and comms, and a load of trainers who have real world experience of working in marketing as well. And we'll also be sharing what resources we have for marketing in the Carbon Literacy Project for you. And then we'll be rounding off the month with top tips for online training delivery from 5 of our really experienced trainers who have done a lot of online training delivery. I'll let someone else in. And then, so the objectives for Trainer Month overall are to share best practice within the trainer network. We've got over 900 accredited trainers in our network, and we really want to be able to use this month to share as much experience as possible. We want to hopefully, as part of that, grow your confidence and skills with delivering carbon literacy training, get chance to cover specific topics in depth that we wouldn't maybe necessarily usually get chance to cover, and hear from personal experiences of trainers of what that's like in the real world, and hopefully create a useful body of resources for trainers. And today's objectives are developing confidence in course writing, understanding what makes an engaging course, how to tailor your course to your audience, and we're going to explore the common pitfalls of course creation. Our speakers today, we've got PK Whalen from Positive Planet, who's a carbon literacy trainer, has written lots of courses. We've got Dr. Matt Sawyer, who is a GP and founder of environmental sustainability consultancy C, who has just become a carbon literacy consultant. And Caroline Harmon also very recently become a carbon literacy consultant and is an independent trainer. I'm going to talk from the perspective of making a shareable course. Emily and Nicole, you get a 2-for-1, are going to talk about the common pitfalls of course creation. Emily is our criteria checking coordinator at the Carbon Literacy Project, so all of the courses go through her at some point. Nicole does everything at the project, including localities, criteria checking, and the trainer network team. So without further ado.
Hey, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, only because my sound went out for a second when you were talking, Sarah, and I was like, wait, so just making sure. Great. Well, thanks, Ellen. Welcome, everyone. This is a really exciting course today. We're so glad you're here, and we're glad you're excited to want to be creating a course yourself or learning what's going to be the best tips and, overcome some of those hurdles. So hopefully you'll get a lot of really great information today. I'm with Positive Planet, so I am a carbon literacy trainer. Congratulations to Matt and Caroline for the becoming consultants. That's quite a big deal. It's invitation only, so that says a lot about them. But at Positive Planet, we have a few full-time trainers, and then we have a couple of associates as well. But we're a consultancy, so we also have access to all of our mission experts. And we've created I think we have about 12 IP carbon literacy courses, everything from freight logistics to construction and built industry, to banking and finance, to events. I can't even think of all of them on the top of my head. And we've worked with over 600 companies. So We've got a lot of experience sort of wrapping our heads around what makes an engaging course. We've also created courses for multinationals, definitely globally recognized brands, in their branding as well. So we've got so much experience, and it's really helped us understand what works for different audiences and what works for people in general. So depending on, we've seen some healthcare people here today. We see some people delivering for C-suite. We've certainly done all of that. So hopefully I can hit some points that'll work for all of you. If you'll take me a second, it takes slight delay on my side there we go, great. So in terms of engaging content, I mean, we've all been through training where we kind of, especially if it's a long day of training or broken up into 2-3 hour sessions, and it has a lot of science in it, it can just really be a lot in terms of weighing you down if there's stats and data, but a lot of that can be quite important in the carbon literacy, advocacy, and also in the criteria. So when you're getting engaging content, we know that that's really going to boost your knowledge retention. It's going to make it really memorable for people as well. They'll walk away really excited and really happy. It increases that motivation and productivity, which means everything they're learning in that course, we definitely want them to carry that forward. We don't want it to just be, oh, I've done the training, now I got to get on with my normal business, and not even pull all of that into our day-to-day activities. And then it also drives really positive behavior change. And we'll tie into some of those, what will make that much more likely as time goes by. Welcome to someone from Norway. So when you have that engaging content, that helps to make all of these positive outcomes happen. And additionally, sometimes when you're delivering to different cohorts, you can have some people that are already like show up at class enthused, and then you sometimes have those cohorts where they're just really busy or they're not sure why they're even there. So engaging content really brings them up to a level that makes it exciting and also just enjoyable for everyone. Stand by. So one of the main tips some of the main tips we would give you is varying your delivery methods. We only have 3 on here, but there's a whole host more. So interactivities, we don't want them sitting all day long and just sort of just taking information. We want to have some sort of activities, physical handouts, options where they're writing, to break up that sort of just looking at a screen and being lectured to. Definitely video and film as well. So ensuring that you've gotten proper places, getting that engagement and that sort of a different sort of media format can really open it up. And it also really impacts people who sort of learn better from an auditory and a visual standpoint as well. So you can use that to highlight some of the learnings or to prepare people for what's about to happen and get them excited. We certainly think discussion is incredibly important. And also it gives you an opportunity to start to hear what they're saying in different activities when they're driving it, putting them in breakout groups, and then hearing what's happening, because then you can start to go, ooh, I think they're onto something here, and you can encourage them, which is always great for a learner. But you can also ensure that you're steering people to stay focused and on topic. And also sometimes with in our learnings, you can get people that might be in a negative mode or a complaining mode. You can start to take that and steer it back into a more effective, productive, solution-focused mode as well. There's lots of other ways as well. So when you're in person, these can be quite easy to do. Online, and I definitely attend that next the carbon literacy training when they're talking about effective methods online. There are ways to do that. So I'll leave that so you can get that, that really good learning from the experts in that area. But there are ways to engage online as well. Stand by. Peer-to-peer is critical. So often when we're having our trainings, it's somebody that's hired us to deliver to their organization. So we've got peer-to-peer, we've got different people, different departments. We break them up, let them learn from each other. But sometimes we do have open enrollment classes. This was one of them that we had at the Tate Modern, where we had all types of businesses that are part of a bid come and attend. But you can house them in different, you can put them with their own colleagues, or if they're on their own, you can put them in another industry group so that they're learning from each other. And then also having them share that information as well. So having them do peer-to-peer, but then having people hear what somebody else came up with, because even though it might be a different department or a different business from their own, if you're having an open enrollment course, they'll pick up on something that could be quite valuable that they wouldn't have thought of. And that's a way of breaking down silos as well. In many of our courses, we'll have the same organization, but people from different departments. And it's amazing how at the end of some of our activities, they'll go, I had no idea marketing was doing that. I had no idea procurement was doing that. So it helps to actually open up the information and strengthen the comprehension of what's happening. There are a few things to consider in terms of your framing. So, and you'll get this in the criteria, but it's just important to reinforce while you're creating the course and thinking of ways of how, when you're delivering this training, you can ensure it's avoiding some things that really can turn people off, get their brains off, or put them in a state of not thinking about solutions, but just sort of being a little bit depressed. So even though the science is really serious, and we know this, you want to avoid sort of the doom and gloom approach. And you also really want to avoid polarization. So certain, when we're delivering to certain cohorts, we might remove a video or remove a particular character or a quote from a specific person because we know it won't land as well for that particular audience. And we might replace it with something it's just a little bit more relevant to them, because you don't want to have to redo any work if you've come up against barriers. So ensuring that you're avoiding polarizing topics or individuals or quotes. And you really do want to ensure you're including really great positive examples, particularly around the globe, but also locally to your cohort as well, so they can see what's positive in their area. And it's really focusing on empowering and keeping them solution focused, because at the end of the day, you've got all this information, which is really vital. And you need to know what that is so that you can work on the solutions, but we want to make sure we motivate them to take action and really highlight what can be done. There are a lot of things we can't solve at this moment, every single problem, but really focusing on them on what's your role, what can you do to take action and make the world a better place. And finally, really, whoops, sorry, I got onto Matt's slide, so hold on a second. It's my double click, stand by, I'm going back. So leverage your resources. So, really access a knowledgeable team of experts, particularly the Carbon Literacy Project. They are going to be your absolute greatest asset for sure. There are so many people at the Carbon Literacy Project that really understand this. As we've said, Nicole has accredited many, many courses and gone through that process. So she'll really have seen the best of the best in terms of what you can do in terms of your carbon literacy course creation. And then also, I would highly recommend getting peer reviews within your own network. Certainly, particularly if they've already gone through a carbon literacy course, give it to your colleague or your friend that has been through this or understands a bit of this, and have them run through it yourself before you go too far down the road so you can start implementing some stuff. I think the Carbon Literacy Project and your peers are going to be really critical to helping you shape that course to be as effective as possible. And finally, I hope so. Hopefully those tips have given you some elements, and you'll get these slides afterwards, as Sarah has said, and it's being recorded, have been of value. But certainly reach out to me anytime and ask me questions over email and LinkedIn. And with that, I'm going to hand off to our colleague, Matt.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very, very much. And it's great to see so many people here. Let's just see if I can get
I'm trying to click forward for you, but I'm going to stop and let you do it.
I've clicked. Oh, no. Oh, blimey. That's a very big click. Let me go back to where I was. So this, the only pun that I could get on top tips for courses was a golfing reference. So I don't know anything really about golf. I'm from healthcare. I'm a GP by background. And that's really my area of specialism or expertise. One of the things that I think it's really, really important is, as PK mentioned, it's that peer-to-peer. Understanding your audience is absolutely crucial. One of the things that I like to do before I deliver a course is know who I'm delivering it to. So what are their roles? What are their responsibilities? What are their pressures? And even within healthcare, there's lots of organisations that are linked to healthcare. And as you write courses for linked organisations, they have got different pressures. So understanding those is absolutely critical. And I think a lot of this is, it's not about delivering a course that people go, oh, I've done the course, I can now forget about it, I've got my certificate, and I go away and keep doing what I was doing before. For me, it's really about having a course that makes this just business as usual. This is now normal. So, for example, within healthcare, there is a requirement that all organisations, all hospital trusts have to have a green plan. So it makes absolute sense for the carbon literacy course to say, and this is how to include it in your green plan. It would be foolish and neglectful, I think, to overlook that. And so I think that for each of the other sectors, whether you're local authority, whether you're in the wine industry or whatever, it's understanding what the requirements are for that organisation or that sector and tailoring the course so that it absolutely becomes business as usual. I think the other is about being able to adapt and personalise the course. So absolutely understand the audience ahead of time, but also about making the course personal. I think that it's really useful to understand the geographical area, for example. And if you can bring in anecdotes of, so for example, I've noted that Claire is from Norway. The image in my background is from Nordkapp, which is the most northern part of Norway. This is the, not just Norway, but of Europe. This is as close to the North Pole as you can get by road. You're about 2,000 miles off the North Pole at this point. So actually, if you have been somewhere or done something, bring in those anecdotes, make it personal, help the audience recognise that you really care about them. You know, you have done your homework and you have been able to bring that into the training. The image is of theatre caps, and these are all personalised so that people who work in theatres get their name and their organisational role because it's personal to them. And I think that the course should be exactly the same. So this, for example, is one of the images that I might include if I was delivering a course in Peterborough. Well, actually, this is the flood risk map. And this really brings it home that that the course is for them, and you have shown that I understand who I'm delivering it to, and I have made the effort to include whether it be wildfires, whether it be flood risk, or whatever the impact is going to be, that it is on our doorsteps. I think the other is a good course is not just engaging and interactive, but it needs to have a degree of flexibility. I think that we've probably all been in meetings, he says, looking at the time, which have overrun, and we are still sat there and it's 10 past, it's 20 past. I should have been in another meeting. I should have been doing something else now. And one of the things that I particularly like from a carbon literacy course perspective is being able to build in a flexible activity. So when we've had discussions, and I think that the discussions that PK mentioned are absolutely critical, because suddenly you get cross-pollination, you get people from different departments talking to each other that may never have met, that didn't know that that department was doing those things. And I think that allowing those discussions to continue is really, really, really critical, because suddenly projects and actions fall out of those. But that may then sort of have overrun by 5 or 10 minutes, which means that there needs to be, and for me, I put it towards the end, that there's a flexible activity that might be scheduled to last 30 minutes, but actually I can do it in 20, but I can also do it in 30. Because that then means that every single course that I've delivered always finishes on time or a minute or two early. And I think your audience really, really, really appreciates that. None of us like still being there afterwards or too long. I think the other is about being human and having that reflected within the course, that none of us are perfect. I'm married, my wife isn't even perfect. It's as close as you can get, but you know. And I think that we have to accept that that there are struggles, you know, within our daily lives, within our roles, within our professions. And that we are not all absolutely where we want to be. We may be moving in that direction. And for me, it's having a concept of graduated environmental behaviours, and it's reflecting that within the course and saying, actually, there are shades of green. Wherever we are at the moment, we may want to be greener, but actually where we're starting from is not from zero, and we can all do a little bit better. I think also within the when writing the course, it's thinking about how you're going to deliver it. And I think that for me, the best courses are the ones which are enthusiastic and motivating and positive, but also having a degree of your personality, being friendly, being chatty, having something that makes people go, oh yeah, I remember that now. You know, introduce things that are slightly bizarre. You know, the average weight of a giraffe is a ton. I've got no idea if you're ever going to use that bit of information, but you now know. You're in a pub quiz and you go, I wonder what the average weight of a giraffe is. I know. That is in part of the carbon literacy course. And I think it's also about reflecting that different people need to have different levels of information, and it's how to be able to write that course so that you can say these are the basic things that we all need to know, but actually I'm going to tantalise and give you some information for how you can step on, or for those who are in a more senior management position. And I think for me, the absolute real bit of the course that we need to end with is being positive, being active and being hopeful. And we had a conversation about this exact slide, and I said I really want to keep this bit in because it is so important that I leave people with that sense of hope, that actually what we're doing is not futile, that it will make a difference. And every fraction of a degree will make a difference, and every positive action and pledge will make a difference. But we have to be doing. It's not just I'll keep my fingers crossed, I'll just have thoughts and prayers, but it's actually that activity, it's that active hope which is absolutely essential. And I think that having that, particularly in the latter half of any course, is for me what leaves people with that positive taste in their mouth that they can go away with. And as promised, I think I had until 10:24, and I think it's 10:23, so I'm going to leave you with 30 seconds to hand on to a partner in crime of Caroline. I'm not going to click the buttons, Caroline. I'm going to leave that up to you. So I'm not going to make us jump on a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. That's lovely. Oh, there we go. I've got control of the slides. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, so thank you, Matt and PK. They're fantastic presentations. So I'm going to talk for 10 minutes. Oh, sorry, I'm whizzing ahead about creating a shareable course. So I've been delivering carbon literacy training since 2019, and in that time I've created 8 carbon literacy courses and also a Train the Trainers course. And one of my carbon literacy courses is about to be launched as a shareable course. So that's similar to a toolkit. It's a course that will appear on the sector page of the Carbon Literacy Project's website, and it will be used by lots of different organisations within the same sector. So I'm just going to talk a bit about how I found that different to creating an ordinary course. One thing that has been the same, because it's always the same when I write a course, is I end up with a very messy desk. So that is a photograph of my desk at the peak of writing the first version of this shareable course back in 2023. Yeah, so I've said there on LinkedIn, I wouldn't survive an office with a clear desk policy. So I'm quite glad I've worked from home for a long time, even pre-COVID. So that's just to make anyone else who doesn't have a clear desk feel like you're not alone there. There we go. So the course that I've written that is going to be shareable is called Carbon Literacy for Congregations. Yeah, so it's designed to be used by small groups of people, sometimes known as house groups, within churches of all denominations across the UK. So the idea is a small group of, say, 5 to 10 people will gather in a living room or possibly a church hall, but we've got here a picture of a living room because that's often where it will be used, and go through the course together. Which means that unusually for a carbon literacy course, there are no slides. You can do the whole course without ever opening PowerPoint. Instead, it's based on a model used by lots of resources that are created for small groups and churches, where there's a leader's guide, which is a booklet for leaders, whoever's leading the course, to work through. And there's a participants booklet that everyone gets a hard copy of. There is also an activity pack, which is a PowerPoint presentation, but the idea is it can be printed out as an A4 pack or it can be shown as slides if that's what people prefer, if they're running it in a church hall and have access to that. There are also a handful of short videos and some activity cards. And the course is very discussion based because that's the kind of model that works well for this sort of group. So I'm just explaining that, so when I'm talking later about how we did it, it just makes sense of what I'm saying, and that, yeah, it's no slides, it's a little bit different. And I'll flip to my next slide. There we go. So what I've got here, sorry, I'm just struggling a little bit with the slide transition. I've missed one. There we go. There we go. What I've got here is 5 questions, which, having written a course, a shareable course, I would ask myself if I were to do that again, so that you can think through those questions if you're thinking to write a shareable course. So who will use the course? How will it be funded? How much time do you need to create the course? How will you future-proof it? And how will it be disseminated and advertised? So to take the first of those, in the case of this course, we decided it would be used face-to-face by small groups in churches of all denominations across the UK. And I think once we kind of had that in mind, we then knew who to approach to involve in writing the course and then to involve in the piloting of the course. I think it's good to think wide and think beyond, you know, your own organisation. If it's shareable, you know, how wide can you take it? But also consider what you can't accommodate. So we were asked by quite a few people to make it into a hybrid course partway through the piloting phase, but we decided we'd already decided it was for in-person use, and to make it hybrid would have meant creating a lot more resources. The reason we were getting asked that was because, aside from small groups and churches using it, we found that some theological colleges picked it up and we're using it too, which is fantastic, but we just made the decision we couldn't make it sort of hybrid and make it online, and if they wanted that, they'd have to make their own. But we did definitely go down the route. It was funded by the Church of England, but they wanted it to be available to all denominations, so we involved lots of different denominations in the piloting. So it might be that your organisation is writing a course, but to make it shareable, you need to involve lots of other organisations in piloting it and in helping to think through at the very outset what the course will involve. Great. Then how will it be funded if it's going to be used by lots of organisations? So in this case, the Church of England funded it, but any denomination can make use of it for free. The only thing they have to consider is the cost of certificates. But obviously another funding model might work better for you. So might several organisations chip in together and fund it together? Might there be some grant funding available if it is going to be used, you know, within your sector? Is there a grant making body that might pay for it? Could it be that it's pay for access once it exists? So the course I've written will be free to access, but there are courses, for instance, the Local Authority Toolkit, where local authorities pay for a licence to be able to use it. That course was originally funded by central government and then moved to that pay for access model. Another example I'm aware of, the Automotive Toolkit, has been funded by Auto Trader, and they now offer it out for free to others within their industry, a little bit like the C of E offering it for free to other denominations. Yeah, so that's really generous of Auto Trader, but has worked really well in making sure that that sector has had a lot of carbon literacy. Then how much time do you need? And I think this is the bit that surprised me. It took much longer to get this course up and running than any other course I've ever written. And I think that's probably because just it needed to involve a lot of different people. So in the spring of 2023, we held online focus groups. So I wrote a very short section of the course, maybe about 30 minutes worth of the course, sent that out to people, and then we had some online focus groups where they told me what they did and didn't like about that, so that I didn't waste time writing a whole course that no one liked. But that obviously took a bit of time to organise and bring people together from lots of different parts of the country and from lots of different churches. I then wrote the whole course based on that feedback, and between the summer of 2023 and the spring of 2025, lots of people piloted it and fed back on how well it worked, mostly via an online form, sometimes via a phone call. From January 2025 onwards, we then liaised with the Carbon Literacy Project about how to make it a shareable course. And I then created that using the feedbacks. I also ran my own pilot. That was really useful to run it myself, and that showed me a few things that didn't work. And later this month, we will have an official online launch of the course. Yeah, so it's just over a 2-year process, whereas it usually maybe takes me a couple of months to pull a course together. But I think it's made it a really strong course because so many people have commented on it and brought their thoughts to it. Can I press the slide button? Sorry, I keep going 2 slides at a time, don't I? Sorry,
there is a bit of a lag, Caroline.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully we're right now. Here we go. Yeah, how will you future-proof your course? So we're planning annual updates and we've budgeted for annual updates, but we did also think hard, certainly when I was writing the final version, about how we minimize changes. So one example is that in the pilot, there was a short video, which was me talking to the camera and explaining some information about the science. But I then realized we were going to have to update that every year because of the way the science changes. So some of the information from that video is actually now in written form in the participant booklet, because that just makes it much quicker and simpler to update. We did keep some of it in a video because we just felt that was the very best way to deliver that. So there is one 2-minute video that we're just going to have to re-record once a year. But we were just, thinking there, how do we minimize the changes that will need to be made? And my final question, sorry, is how will it be disseminated? Has that disappeared, that slide? Maybe. If it has, I'll just talk through it. It has. Okay. So how will it be disseminated? So we know that, we involved everyone that we intended it to be for in the making of it. So they knew about it before it existed. So we did that at the focus group stage. It's then been advertised to every Church of England diocesan environmental officer, of which there are 42. There are also in the region of 40 net zero officers in the Church of England now as well. So we were making sure we got to the right people within the Church of England. But then we also made contact with lots of other churches as well. We found that there was a lot of word of mouth, so a lot of organic dissemination during the pilot phase, to the point that we kind of lost control of who had it and didn't get feedback from everyone who used it. At one point, I was visiting my husband's aunt and uncle and discovered that my uncle's small group in his church were running it, and I had no idea that church had gotten hold of it or doing it, and they had no idea. They were supposed to feedback on how it went to me so that I had that information. So that was fantastic that it gone a little bit viral in some ways, but I think we maybe should have had a better process keeping track of who had it and making sure they knew that we needed their feedback. Okay, and yeah, once it's shareable, it will be on the sector page of the Carbon Literacy Project's website, so then it's hopefully easy for anyone to find. And then just to finish up, what I learned that it takes a lot longer than writing an ordinary carbon literacy course. You need to plan a much longer timeline. It can be quite hard to get feedback from people, even if they know from the outset that's what you need. I don't know if we should have had some kind of prize draw for anyone who did provide feedback, just to incentivize them a bit. The course really benefited from being piloted. I've never piloted a course in that way before, and I found it really improved the course. Piloting it myself was really useful. And just, that we couldn't please everyone. I think we could have had various iterations for theological colleges and other organisations, and maybe that will come in the future. Great. So thank you for bearing with me on the slide changes there, and I'll pass to Nicole.
Thank you. I think Emily's going to start with this one.
Yeah, indeed.
So I'll hand over to you straight away. And thanks, Caroline. That was amazing. Really interesting to see all the behind the scenes work that goes into it.
Nice, thank you. Sorry, I think I've clicked ahead, haven't I? So I'm Emily. I'm the criteria checking coordinator, and Nicole is on my team. So she's one of our lead criteria checkers. And as was mentioned earlier, I think Nicole has reviewed the most courses on our team. She's done about 130, which is really impressive. So I'm going to make a start. So what we're covering today is kind of the things that we...
Sorry, can I just ask, can everybody else see Emily? Because I've lost you, Emily.
Oh, sorry.
Can everybody else see Emily?
I'm getting lots of thumbs up, so that's good. Sorry, Sarah. But yeah, we're gonna go through some of the things that we most commonly see sort of missed by trainers when they submit their materials. So there are obviously some trainers which don't fall into these categories, but the ones that we see like over and over again are co-benefits. So what are the kind of additional benefits of taking climate action. And that obviously helps with what PK was talking about, I think, with like positivity and kind of encouraging people and not making them feel kind of unmotivated at the end of the training. And then also climate equity, so making sure to put emphasis on kind of like who is responsible for the impacts of climate change and who's going to be the most like affected by those impacts. And then also like kind of relevance, making sure that the course materials actually are relevant to the audience, and not kind of like a generic course. And I think Matt was kind of talking earlier about kind of connecting with your audience and making sure that you kind of like express to them that you care for them and that you kind of understand them. And also was mentioned earlier, kind of making sure that learners have got the opportunity to feedback amongst each other. So Nicole's going to make a start, I think, with co-benefits.
Yep, that's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, so co-benefits is all about framing. So there's plenty of ways to frame climate action. And the obvious is that it's really important in order to reach net zero and mitigate the most severe impacts of climate change. However, what kind of like research has found, and what I'm sure you'll find in your trainings, that that narrative alone can feel quite overwhelming, especially when you bring in kind of like all the external, like political polarization and messages in the media. So part of the CL standard requires recognizing that a lot of the changes we make to mitigate climate change actually bring about a lot of wider benefits as well. So contributing to a better world and a better way of life. You can bring the big picture into courses through positive visioning exercises. I know Caroline does a really good visioning exercise in her course. I think you can find an explanation on that on our YouTube channel because it was done in a trainer resource sharing session. But yeah, this is all about kind of like imagining what the world looks like in 50 years when, you know, food systems are stable, things have like improved, we've changed our complete systems. It can be a really powerful exercise. And then on the smaller scale, just bringing in specific co-benefits alongside actions. So, for example, greener travel and active travel can reduce air pollution from motor vehicles, contributing to healthier air to breathe, and increased walking and cycling contributes to physical and mental well-being. Other co-benefits of actions such as like energy efficiency and reduced consumerism, you know, can result in big savings money-wise, personally, as well as cost savings for organisations, including savings from reduced number of expenses to recover from damaging events such as floods and storms. So, you know, it's important to bring in that, you know, you might have kind of costs to, I don't know, reducing emissions like initially, but kind of there's the cost of not net zero, which I always find really interesting when it's brought into courses, because it just gives you that different kind of perspective. Other points on the slide are common co-benefits on both large and small scales. So discussing these can help give learners, you know, a greater sense of purpose in their actions, which in turn increases their motivation to change their individual and collective behaviours. So I think Emily is going to do the next one, which is climate equity. So I'll pass on to you, Emily.
Thank you, Nicole. So yeah, again, I think a lot of these sort of points have been mentioned throughout the other presentations this morning. Oops, what have I done there? Was that me or Nicole? Doesn't matter. Sorry. So yeah, I think this is one thing that I really look out for when I'm looking at courses. So kind of looking at who is going to be the most affected by the impacts of climate change and who's the most responsible as well. So personally, I think the best way of demonstrating this is the carbon map, which I think a lot of trainers use or are familiar with, which I've put oh, goodness me, sorry, which I've put in one of the pictures there. And I think that's a really good resource. It also gives learners like the opportunity to kind of go away and like play around with it on their own, something that's not led by the trainer. So it kind of keeps that variety in the course as well. And yeah, just kind of highlighting that these sort of impacts are not necessarily going to be ones felt on a global scale, but also on a local scale, local scale as well. So if we're talking about the UK, looking at like flooding and wildfires, this picture actually is from my hometown. So I always find that's a really good one to show people, because like I've got my own examples of climate impacts, things that I've seen on my doorstep. And I think you can relate to people more by using your own personal examples. And if you don't have any of your own, kind of getting learners to share their experiences with each other is really powerful as well. So yeah, again, thinking on both a global and local scale is really important as well, because obviously there's certain communities, for example, within the UK that will be kind of more affected than others, whether that's people living, in certain areas, or maybe like ethnic minorities, maybe people with disabilities or elderly people will be kind of like disproportionately affected. So I think that kind of emphasis on a local scale is really, really important. I think that's often like more missed than the kind of global scale. And Nicole, I'm going to hand back to you.
Thank you. Yep, so moving on to maximised relevance. So what do we mean when we talk about local and social context? I'm sure many of you will know from creating multiple courses, and as Matt was saying earlier, it's all about the peer-to-peer, it's all about the relatability. So we're bringing in experience and the numerous research on educational initiatives, particularly in relation to climate education. I know this because I did my dissertation about it. And it's found evidence of greater engagement and increased motivation to act when the learning is relevant and kind of reflects the participants' own circumstances. And that's why we want every course to be tailor-made for the organisation. A big corporate's not going to engage in the same way as a school if they have the same content. So, for example, you can bring things down from broad to local and keeping it kind of relevant to the sector. So a transport company, for example, could highlight sources of emissions specifically from the transport sector, including hotspots that can help to focus the learners' minds on the big areas which need changing in order to reduce emissions. Bringing in sector and locally specific impacts will also help the learners feel closer to the impacts of climate change, helping to debunk the kind of like it's not affecting us or it's not really on my doorstep narrative, as Emily mentioned with that picture of the flood in her village. So when talking about how to reduce emissions, empowering learners with sector-specific policies and actions will help to inspire action and shed lights on ways they can use their own knowledge and experience to make positive changes in their workplaces, in their communities, in their place of education, depending on the course they're doing. So highlighting existing action and existing networks where you can go and share your ideas and get more ideas to act. It'll help learners feel less alone in their efforts. They might be at an IT company and they think, oh, well, no one else is doing anything. But then when they see all the case studies from other IT companies that are actually making a lot of reductions, they're thinking, oh, right, okay, I'm not in this alone. Suddenly my action feels like it is going to help because it's in a big pond of other actions rather than a little fish in a big pond with no action. So that's kind of my views on maximising the relevance and the benefits of it.
Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, so similarly to what Nicole was saying, so I'm going to just briefly talk about kind of making it relevant to the organisation. So this is very similar to what Nicole's spoken about in terms of the sector relevance. But I guess there's a few additional things you can do for your organisation. So I guess if you are doing a bespoke course for maybe your organisation, or you've been sort of like drafted in to do it for someone else's organisation, you obviously need to kind of identify where are the main sources of greenhouse gases in that organisation, to kind of make sure that learners know kind of where they can make the most impact. You also need to mention how that organisation might be impacted by climate change or how it's already been impacted by climate change. That obviously will drive the learners to kind of make those changes and implement them quickly, so that they can kind of prevent those things from happening. It's also really good to discuss kind of things that have already been committed to by the organisation. So if they've got any sort of net zero targets or sustainability strategies in place already, that's always a kind of good place to start, so that learners understand like what's already happening within their organisation, because it might be that you've got people from a lot of different roles and actually people don't know. So that's really important to kind of highlight in the beginning. And then similarly to what Nicole was saying, kind of using case studies of maybe competing organisations, kind of showing what the sector is doing already, and where there may be like gaps in what their organisation is doing. That's always really inspiring to kind of see what very similar organisations are capable of, and it kind of will inspire people within that organisation to do something similar. And I think that's me done. And if there's any questions later, there'll be time after I hand back to Sarah. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to all of our speakers, and thank you so much for keeping to time. That is fantastic. So we do have a bit of time now for questions. I don't know what screen I'm on now. Ooh. So yes, do we have any questions for the panel? I saw Helen, you had popped something in potentially from last week. Do you want to say that out loud, or do you want me to read it?
You can read it if you have it in front of you, because it's quite far up the chat now. Carrying it was Councillor Belinda's question, was it? I think she is here today. I've seen her in the chat. Talking about how much we can cover resilience and adaptation. And then I've kind of added to that with all of these other, I called it polycrisis items, for want of a better phrase, because having delivered a lot of different courses, and some of them being toolkits or written by other people, everyone is approaching this differently. And it is always the key challenge I find submitting a course for accreditation, is wanting to cover so much and join all the dots together and having to leave things out. And that is always the pain point for me with accreditation of a course. So yeah, I'd love to get Emily and Nicole's thoughts on that, please.
I'm happy to come in. I think I put a bit of a response into the chat already. But yeah, the whole polycrisis and intersectionality and kind of domino effects of a lot of different tipping points and things like that, I find really, really interesting. And whenever I see it in a course, I think, oh, these learners are going to get like an extra nugget of kind of that well-rounded understanding. It's not essential, it's not in our criteria specifically, but I do think it makes a course better. Depending on your audience as well, it depending on your audience depends how much in depth you're going to go into and how you're going to explain it. But I think that there's potential to weave those kinds of things into different points in the course. When you think talking about one impact, you can say, well, actually, this links to other impacts, and do a bit of kind of a circle. Matt?
I was just going to mention on that, having a point for discussion early on, first half of the course, where people can bring up the things that are most important to them. So mentioning that there are these other aspects of the polycrisis, and we know that climate change is only one of a number of different elements. Actually giving people that opportunity to be able to talk about the things and the links that they've seen, I think is really, really helpful, because they will tell you how much detail, how much depth, how much knowledge they've got at that point. And that for me is then when you build in that extra flexibility later on, because that discussion might go on for 20 minutes instead of 10 minutes, but that's fine, because I think that it allows people to explore at their level.
Absolutely, love that.
Emily, did you want to come in on that at all?
I think Nicole summed it up quite well. I think, yeah, I really like to see additional things, but equally, obviously, if you are wanting to stick to our kind of recommended 7 to 8 hour timing, it is quite difficult to fit all of those things in. And I do understand that that's really frustrating sometimes, because there are some really good resources out there. I think what I always recommend to trainers who maybe have got too many slides, for example, is to like not just get rid of all of those resources, but actually to just have kind of maybe a handout or something that they can send to learners afterwards, for those learners who are really interested in kind of doing some extra research. Because it is, yeah, when you've done all that research and you've found some really like really powerful resources, but you don't have time to share them, it's kind of, yeah, complete waste really not to share those with the learners. So yeah, maybe just creating some sort of way of sharing those things afterwards so that they're not wasted. That's what I always recommend.
Thanks, Emily. Guys put a question in the chat for the relevance part. Do you want to say it, Guy, or are you happy for me to read it? I'll read it. For the relevance part, I'm making a course for any company / sector, but at board level. How might you adapt the criteria checks for a more general course? I don't know if PK you want to come, because could you do some open courses for a variety of audiences, don't you?
Yeah, thank you. Well done, Guy. I know you're trying to do a general course, and that could be, you know, getting through the criteria checker. What we do is we create, so we have done to C-suite, and they might be freight and logistics, but they might be events and, you know, hospitality, two totally different industries. So I would ensure when you're making this course, and of course, Nicole and Emily as the experts could jump in as well, just ensuring that you make a note or have a slide in there and say that we will address, you know, depending on who the people are, we will address the exact specifics for that particular organization. I guess a question I would have is that going to be an open enrollment course where board level people can come? Because I found that won't happen. Or is it a board level course where you are delivering to a specific organization, in which case you can cover those specifics, but you'll have to do that every time. But ensuring that the Carbon Literacy Project, Nicole and Emily, are well aware that you're going to cover that, as well as the generals. Does that make sense?
To a specific board each time. Very good.
Then
So
you'll be
it
able
sounds-
to cover it. Yeah, then I would have slides, you know, I'd have some holding slides that are that you can definitely let the project know. That's okay, Guy. That you can definitely let the project know, you know, for example, if I give to this industry, this might be something I would include if I give to industry. So you could have 3 sample ideas and then note, but every single time it will be very geared towards that industry, and we'll create bespoke slides for that. Would that qualify, Emily and Nicole? So I'll let them.
Nicole, do you want to come in?
I was going to let you come in because it's difficult. You know, when someone says the word general, carbon literacy isn't very general unless it's specifically for like interested organisations to come in. So we would have to maybe have just a chat with you and see what the intention is, how specific we can make it, because we want to help you make it a viable option. I'm sorry that I don't have a straight answer for you. But yeah, that is what our team are here for. It's about supporting you to kind of help make sure that the course is the best it can be and will have the correct audience and correct relevance.
Can I come in on that unless Emily's going to?
Yeah,
No,
go
I was
for
just
it.
going to say, yeah, let's have a chat.
Yeah, from my own professional and personal opinion, my reaction to that was, if you can get in a boardroom, make it as tailored as possible, maximize your impact, because that's maximum carbon saving from those people with incredible agency in that room. So yeah, I would tailor that to the nth degree as much as I possibly could for that maximum impact for those people with big, you know, significant agency to make change. But on the structured carbon literacy, carbon literate organisation pathway, I'd be very careful. You want to make sure that you are engaging them and advocate for them to become a carbon literate organisation, and they're going to need access to a registered and criteria checked initiative for that pathway in that carbon literate organisation journey. So if they are doing an open course, they need to be careful with that, don't they? It's particularly depending on the size of the organisation. We're saying C-suite, and obviously that could be any size of organisation. Do you want to just add to that, Emily or Nicole or Sarah, just to clarify, you guys knowing that pathway better than me, I imagine?
I think that was great, Helen, and I can see Heidi's got her hand up as well, so I'll let Heidi chip in.
Thanks, guys. Just what I put in the chat to say, Guy, if you can make it as specific as possible, but still you can keep your generic. If it's always going to be leaders or senior people, maybe it can be for leadership, carbon literacy for leadership teams, because it's also going to be so much easier when you come to do your marketing and sales around it. We don't talk about the after bit enough. I think, you know, if you're a consultant or a trainer, that bit is so important, because you could have the best product in the world and nobody knows about it. So just think about how you're going to sell and market the course as well. I mean, you might be funded. I don't know your situation, but it sounds like it's corporates and in leadership teams. So I would go for something like for leaders or for leadership. Yeah, just my 5 cents.
Thank you, Heidi. Really appreciate that. And I think we've got another question from Lucy in the chat. Making a course for construction site workers on a project and speaking to family and friends who work on site. There are skeptics with climate change actually linking natural disasters. Would it be best to reinforce with scientific data or find another way to make it more relatable? I don't know. Caroline, would you like to come in on that?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I think Matt's given a great answer there. So obviously, because it's a carbon literacy course, you've got to talk about the science. That's part of a carbon literacy course. But in moving them on from their skepticism, it is often better to tell stories about people like them and speak to their values, understand what they value and care about that might be lost to climate change. Catherine Hayhoe is really good on this, if you look her up. And so's the Britain Talks climate material as well, can help you understand how different parts of the population think about things as well. So they would be my top tips.
Amazing. PK,
Thank
do you want to
you.
comment on that as well?
Yeah, we've created, so Lucy, well done that you're hitting that target, because we know that that's a lot of emissions. But so we've done construction built industry and we've done retrofit as well. And you can get some skeptics in that audience. Just, you know, that's not the nature of their day-to-day job is climate change. But what we have done is tied in how it's linking to how the International Construction Council has noted that, yes, the changes that we're going to see in climate change will impact construction built industry across the globe. And that we tie in, have you, experienced a project that's been delayed due to flooding or supply chain? And then we tie in why the supply chain, is impacted. Even wood grown in the same forest in the same location for the same amount of time is not the same kind of scientific consistencies they would get. So you just sort of link it into the whole system. And I think you can do that. We've seen at the end of the course, really positive outcomes.
Thank you. Yeah, because I think I was looking at it on a manager level at first. So I went into quite a lot of scientific detail on like supply chain, but because it's for construction workers, I didn't want to go into too much depth of that. So I think bringing it back to the stories of how it affects them on site and how that is actually linked might go a lot better. So thank you for that. Got some good research.
If you've got examples of if you've got examples of, say, heat waves affecting their ability to do construction, that kind of thing, or extreme weather. Yeah.
Great suggestion. Thank you, Caroline. And we're all about up to time, but if you want to email any other questions over, feel free to do so. I'll send a follow-up email after this event. I would say from my own experience, it's something not all co-benefits need to be measurable. Qualitative and personal co-benefits can also be really impactful, and especially ones that are really specific to you and your audience. I'm just going to quickly share my screen again. We have coming up, I don't know if people can see that, next, we've obviously got all the Trainer Month events, but we're doing Pioneers at ITV in Leeds. It's a free event. It's our biannual networking event for trainers. And if you're not in Leeds or the surrounding area, you can join us on Zoom. There's loads of chance for kind of breakout chat and networking with trainers. So that's a really joyful event. Nicole will share that in the chat, or I'll share the link in the follow-up email. And also in the follow-up email, I will send you our feedback form if you want to give us any feedback about today's event, so we can tailor what we're doing for the rest of the month and for our events in future. That would be really great. Otherwise, hopefully we shall see you at another Trainer Month event or Pioneers or any of our other events soon. And thank you once again to all of our speakers for today for all of your insights and experience. It's really, really appreciated. So I'll say goodbye on that. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon. Thank you. Goodbye.
Do you want speakers to stay on, Sarah, or are we all just heading?
It's up to you. I just want to say thank you. That was brilliant. And apologies that the internet was a bit slow, so the slides were going a bit slower than have
I
been.
think that might have
I'm
been my
sorry.
internet, because no one else had the problem, did they? So
No, I think they'd just had a go at it and could see how slow the slides were going.
right, okay. Well,
We did as well, Carolyn. So, but we were able to, earlier to figure out that, oh, I have to click it once and just wait. So, but it's
okay.
so it wasn't just you; it was us
Okay.
as well. Thank
And-
you, everyone. I've got a 12 o'clock carbon literacy training to start. So
luck.
Good
I'll
luck.
see you
goes well.
guys. Thank you
I'll see
so
you
much.
Thanks so much.
Thursday.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you on Thursday.
How do I
And
get out of here?
apologise,
Leave.
Caroline, that one of your slides fell off. I'll double check.
Don't
I'll
worry.
go in and make sure that that's in the one that we share in the follow-up email.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Are you going to go to the last half hour of full team?
Well, I might just be there in the background. I might as well, mightn't I?
Yeah.
I've got a
I'll do the
meeting at
same.
11:30, so I'll probably come in for like 10 minutes.
Nice. Well, thanks so much. It was a really good
Oh,
session.
thank you. Oh, great.
All right.
Brilliant.
See you in a minute.
Bye.